Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to the Fluent Zone, your favorite place to enjoy interesting English stories and improve your listening and speaking skills. Today, we've brought you another exciting story that will not only entertain you, but also take you one step closer to becoming fluent in English.
Today, we start Chapter 1 of a very mysterious story. The story of Flight 915, a plane that disappeared for 37 years. This story is full of suspense and surprise, and we will tell it in 6 simple chapters. Let's begin. It was a bright and peaceful morning on July 2nd, 1955. The sun was shining over New York City, and everything seemed normal at LaGuardia Airport. One of the flights on that day was Flight 915. It was a Pan American Airlines flight going from New York to Miami. The aircraft was an old-style plane, a DC-4, which was very common in the 1950s. Inside the plane were 57 passengers. There were men, women, and even small children. They were going on vacation, visiting family, or just traveling for work. Everyone was excited and happy. The crew members were also ready. The pilot, Captain Richard Strasser, was very experienced. He had been flying planes for over 20 years. He knew the route very well. The co-pilot and air hostesses were calm and professional. They greeted the passengers with a smile. At 9:55 a.m., the control tower gave the signal. The plane was ready for takeoff. The engines roared, the wheels rolled. Flight 915 slowly left the runway and lifted into the sky. From the ground, it looked like just another normal flight. But what happened next was anything but normal. The plane flew high into the clouds. At first, everything was fine. The radio communication between the plane and the control tower was working. The weather was clear. There were no storms or strong winds. But suddenly, the plane went silent. No one on the ground could hear from Flight 915 again. They called the plane again and again, but no answer. It was as if the plane had disappeared from the sky. People in the control room were shocked. They tried to track the plane on radar, but it was gone. Just like that. A plane with 57 people had vanished without a trace. This was the beginning of one of the strangest mysteries in aviation history. Where did the plane go? What happened to the passengers? Why was there no crash, no message, no emergency call? These questions had no answers, and this was only the beginning of the mystery. Chapter 2. The Search for Flight 915. No clues, no answers. After Flight 915 disappeared, the airport in New York became very serious. The people in the control room were confused and worried. It was not normal for a plane to stop talking to the tower. Planes always give updates during the flight. But Flight 915 had gone completely quiet. Soon, the news reached the Pan American Airlines office. The airline was shocked. They immediately started checking all the last signals and messages from the plane. Everything was normal until the last message. Then, nothing. The U.S. government and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, were informed. A search operation began. Time was very important. If the plane had crashed, they needed to find survivors quickly. Big helicopters, rescue planes, and Navy ships started searching the last known location of Flight 915. They searched over the Atlantic Ocean and the land between New York and Florida. They used radar, maps, and expert pilots. But they found nothing. No part of the plane, no fire, no oil in the water, no sound from the black box. It was like the plane had simply vanished from the earth. Families of the passengers were heartbroken. Mothers cried for their children. Wives waited for husbands who never came back. The airline paid money to families, but no money could fill the pain. Newspapers wrote big headlines. Flight 915 missing without a trace. 57 lives lost in the sky. Was it a crash or something else? The mystery became national news. Experts from around the world were called to study the case. Some believed the plane had crashed deep in the ocean. Others said maybe it was hijacked. But there was no proof of any crash or hijack. Not a single piece of the plane was found. Not even a shoe or a suitcase. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. The search continued for almost 6 months, but still no clue was found. In the end, the U.S. government declared that the plane was lost. The case was closed. They called it an unexplained disappearance. But not everyone believed it was over. Some people believed there was something strange about this case. Some pilots said they had seen flashes of light in the sky on that day. Others said they saw an old plane flying in the wrong direction. But nobody could prove anything. And slowly, the world began to forget about Flight 915. The files were kept in a secret room. The families had no more hope. Flight 915 became one of the greatest mysteries in airline history. But the real shock was still many years away. Something unbelievable was going to happen. After 37 years, people would hear the name Flight 915 again. And this time it would shock the world. Chapter 3. The Plane Returns. A strange day in 1992. It was a normal day in Caracas, Venezuela, on the morning of March 9, 1992. At the Caracas International Airport, everything was calm. Flights were coming and going like usual. The workers were busy. Pilots were taking off. Passengers were waiting for their flights. Nothing seemed unusual. But in the control tower, a worker noticed something strange on the radar screen. A plane was coming, but there was no flight scheduled from that direction. The air traffic controller looked closer. The signal was strong. The plane was flying at the right height and speed, but it had not sent any message. It had not asked for permission to land. The airport was confused. "Who is this?" they asked. The mystery plane didn't reply. The control tower tried again and again to contact the pilot, but there was only silence. Everyone in the tower was now watching the radar. Then, suddenly, the voice came. "This is Flight 915, requesting permission to land. We are flying from New York to Miami. Scheduled time, July 2nd, 1955. The controller dropped his pen. "July 1955, he repeated slowly. The year now was 1992. That flight was missing for 37 years. People inside the tower looked at each other in shock. "What kind of joke is this?" someone whispered. But the plane was getting closer. Outside the window, the airport workers saw an old-style plane approaching. It was a DC-4 aircraft, a type that had not been used in decades. On the side of the plane, they could read the faded letters. Pan American Airways. Everyone knew Pan Am had stopped operating many years ago. The old aircraft looked dusty and worn, but it was flying smoothly. The wheels came down. The engines were working. And slowly, the plane landed safely on the runway. The control tower allowed it to land. Not because they trusted it, but because they were too shocked to stop it. The runway was quickly closed. Security trucks, police cars, and airport staff rushed to the plane. The aircraft stopped. The engines turned off, and everything became quiet. Then the door opened. And what the airport saw next was something no one could explain. Strange passengers, frozen in time. From the plane, passengers started walking out. They looked normal, but something was very strange. They were wearing 1950s clothes, old suits, hats, and dresses that no one had worn in many years. Their shoes, watches, and bags were from the past. One boy held a comic book from 1955. A woman held a newspaper dated July 2nd, 1955. The newspaper was perfectly clean, like it was printed that morning. Doctors and officers came close. They began asking questions. "Where have you been? Do you know what year it is?" The passengers looked confused. They said, "It's 1955, right?" The doctors checked them. Their body health was perfect. Even more shocking, none of them had aged. They were still the same age as they were in 1955. One man who was 40 years old at the time of the flight was still 40. A girl who was 10 was still a 10-year-old girl. The pilot, Captain Richard Strasser, stepped out of the cockpit. He looked calm. He said, "Why are we in Venezuela? We were flying to Miami. What's going on here?" The police tried to explain to him that it was the year 1992. He did not believe them. They showed him modern cars, phones, and computers. The pilot looked afraid and shocked. "What happened to us?" he asked, but no one had the answer. Family reactions. A shocking reunion. Soon the news spread like fire. Missing plane from 1955 lands after 37 years. News channels, radio, and newspapers around the world reported the unbelievable event. Some people thought it was fake news, but the government confirmed it. Then something even more emotional happened. The names of the passengers were checked. Many of their family members were still alive, now old, living in different parts of the world. Some were 70 or 80 years old. One woman saw her daughter, who had been missing for 37 years, still a little girl, standing at the airport. The woman cried and held her daughter tight. Some husbands were reunited with wives. Brothers met their lost sisters. Tears were everywhere. But the happiness was mixed with deep confusion. How was this possible? Where had the plane been for 37 years? Why had no one aged? Was it magic? A time machine? Something else? No one could understand. Questions without answers. The government began a full investigation. The passengers were taken to a secret location for medical testing. The plane was kept in a secure hangar where scientists and aviation experts tried to study it. But what they found made no sense. The fuel in the plane was still fresh, as if it had just taken off. The engines were working perfectly. The clocks inside the plane showed 1955 time. The black box, the device that records flight information, showed nothing strange. It just stopped recording after takeoff, then started again when it landed. There were no signs of damage, no sign of malfunction. It was like the plane had been frozen in time. Some believed the plane had entered a time loop. Others said it had moved into another dimension. But all of these were just guesses. No one had any real answers. But before they could learn more, something very strange happened again. Chapter 4. The Second Disappearance. Gone again. After the unbelievable return of Flight 915, the airport in Caracas became a center of attention. The government sent special teams, doctors, scientists, and reporters. No one had ever seen such a strange event in history. It was more than just a mystery. It was something that broke the rules of science. The passengers were taken to a special hospital. Their health was perfect, but their minds were confused. They believed it was still 1955. They did not know about modern technology. They had never seen color televisions, mobile phones, or computers. Doctors explained to them that they were now in the year 1992. Many of the passengers did not believe it. Some started crying. Others sat quietly, too shocked to speak. They asked questions like, "Where are our homes? Are our parents still alive? Why does everything look so different?" The truth was hard. Some of their family members had already died. Some houses were gone. Some cities had completely changed. The world was a different place now. But the biggest question remained. Where had Flight 915 been for 37 years? And just when scientists were preparing to study the aircraft more deeply, something happened that no one could imagine. Unusual activity around the plane. The plane was kept in a secure hangar at the airport. It was guarded by soldiers and watched by cameras. No one was allowed near it except a few experts. Inside the hangar, the plane stood silently. But people working near it started to notice strange things. The lights in the hangar began flickering for no reason. The air around the plane felt unusually cold, even though it was hot outside. Some workers said they heard soft radio signals coming from the plane at night. One guard said, "I saw the pilot inside, sitting in the cockpit, even though he was in the hospital." Another worker claimed, "The plane's engine started for 5 seconds, and then stopped again." At first, the officials did not believe these reports. But then, on the night of March 12, 1992, just 3 days after the landing, everything changed. A mysterious escape. Around 2 a.m., the guards on duty heard a loud engine sound from the hangar. They ran to check. The plane's lights were on. Its engines were running. Inside the cockpit, Captain Strasser was seen sitting, his hands on the controls. How did he get there? Nobody knew. The gate of the hangar had been locked from the outside. The pilot looked at the guards. He raised his hand slowly and closed the door of the plane. The control tower received a message. "This is Flight 915, preparing to depart, heading to Miami." The tower panicked. They tried to stop the plane. "Flight 915, stop. You do not have permission to fly." But the pilot did not respond. The hangar gate suddenly opened by itself. The runway lights switched on, even though no one touched the controls. The plane started moving. Security vehicles rushed to block the runway. But the plane slowly moved around them, almost as if it was being guided by something unseen. Then, the plane took off. Its wheels left the ground. Its engines roared into the night sky. And then, the plane was gone. Just like in 1955, Flight 915 had disappeared again. Total confusion and shock. People in the control tower could not believe what they had just seen. The plane was gone. There were no radar signals, no communication, no signs of it in the sky. They searched the entire region with helicopters and satellites, but nothing was found. This time, there were no passengers inside the plane, only Captain Strasser. What happened to him? Why did he return to the plane? Why did the plane start by itself? These questions shocked everyone. The media around the world exploded with headlines. Flight 915 disappears. Again. Ghost plane takes off in Venezuela. Pilot vanishes into thin air. The public became divided. Some believed it was all fake. Others said it was a government experiment. Some called it a miracle. But nobody could explain it clearly. The strange note. A week later, a strange envelope was found in the cockpit of another plane parked at the same airport. It had no stamp, no sender. Inside was a short note written in old handwriting. It said, "Time is not what you think. We never felt lost. We only felt different. The sky has secrets. One day the world will understand." R.S. Many believed it was written by Captain Richard Strasser. But again, there was no proof. The handwriting matched his signature from the 1950s. But no one knew where the note came from. Was it really from him? Was he alive? Or was this just another part of the mystery? And now, silence. After that night, Flight 915 was never seen again. The families of the passengers who had returned continued to live quietly. Some passengers remembered nothing. Some said they had dreams about endless clouds and strange lights. A few believed they had gone through a tunnel in time. The government stopped talking about the case. The files were marked secret. Some say the plane is still flying, somewhere in the sky, between time and space. This was the second disappearance of Flight 915. But this time, it left behind even more questions. Where did the plane go? Why did it come back? And why did it leave again? The mystery only grew deeper. But we're not done yet. Chapter 5. Theories and Secrets. What really happened to Flight 915? After the second disappearance of Flight 915, the world was full of confusion. People asked questions, but no one had the answers. The plane had come back after 37 years, and then vanished again. Scientists, pilots, and mystery lovers all around the globe began searching for explanations. Many people started to believe that something beyond science was involved. In this chapter, we will explore the most powerful and interesting theories about what could have happened to Flight 915. Let's look at them one by one, and you decide which one makes the most sense. Theory 1. The time travel theory. This is the most famous idea. Some experts believe that Flight 915 entered a time tunnel, a place in the sky where time moves differently. According to this theory, the plane didn't crash or land anywhere. It simply flew into a space where time stopped or moved slower. For the people inside the plane, only a few hours passed. But for the outside world, 37 years had gone by. This is called a time warp. Time travel is not just in movies. Scientists like Albert Einstein once said that time is not always the same. It can change in speed depending on gravity and movement. But the question is, where is this time tunnel? Why did Flight 915 go through it? And why hasn't it happened again? We don't know. But this theory has many believers. Theory 2. The hidden dimension theory. Another strange idea is that the plane entered a hidden dimension. Our world has 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. But some scientists believe there are more dimensions that we cannot see. They say there may be parallel worlds, invisible spaces where everything is different. Maybe Flight 915 accidentally slipped into one of these dimensions. It stayed there for 37 years, where time and space are not the same, and then came back by mistake. Some people say this is possible during magnetic storms or in areas with strong energy fields, but no one has found a way to see these dimensions yet. Still, it's a theory that opens the mind. Theory 3. A government cover-up. There are people who believe the story of Flight 915 was not an accident, but a secret mission. They say the plane was taken by a secret government project. maybe to test new technology or to study time travel. According to this theory, the passengers were part of an experiment. That's why everything was kept secret. That's why the black box showed nothing strange. Maybe when the plane came back in 1992, it was a mistake. And when the pilot realized it, he took off again. To hide the truth. This theory also says the strange note from Captain Strasser was a message, trying to tell the world that something big is hidden. Some people even believe the plane didn't disappear the second time. It was taken by powerful people. But again, this is only a theory. No proof, no evidence, just a lot of questions. Theory 4. A scientific mystery. The sky phenomenon. Some scientists believe Flight 915 was caught in a rare natural event. There are places in the world where the sky behaves strangely. Pilots have reported flashing lights, sudden fogs, or radio failure. One such place is the Bermuda Triangle, a part of the Atlantic Ocean where many ships and planes have disappeared. Flight 915 was not flying over the Bermuda Triangle, but it was not very far either. Maybe the plane flew through a magnetic storm or energy cloud, which affected its instruments and pushed it into another space or time. In these areas, compasses stop working, clocks change speed, and radios go silent. Some believe Flight 915 passed through such a storm, and that's why it disappeared without crashing. Again, these events are real, but very rare. No one can predict them, and Flight 915 may have been unlucky. Theory 5. A supernatural mystery. There is another group of people who believe this mystery is not scientific at all. They say something supernatural happened. Maybe the passengers were taken by ghosts, aliens, or angels. Some people even believe the plane entered the afterlife and came back from the world of the dead. They say the way the plane returned, with no signs of damage, no aging, and no memory loss, is too strange for science. This idea may sound crazy to many people, but it also gives comfort to those who want to believe in miracles. To them, Flight 915 was touched by a higher power, and that is why the mystery can never be solved. Theory 6. It never happened. The fake story. Theory, of course, there are also people who believe that none of this ever happened. They say the entire story of Flight 915 is just a myth. A tale created on the internet, or a made-up story that grew bigger with time. They argue, there are no official flight records. Pan American Airlines never reported such an incident. No photos or video recordings of the event exist. The note from the pilot was never proven real. To them, this is just a ghost story, told again and again to entertain people. But then, why do so many people believe it? Why did some airport workers in Caracas speak about the landing? Why are their names and faces connected to the passengers? Something must be true, right? What we still don't know. Even after looking at all the theories, there are still many mysteries. Why did the plane return to a country it was not flying to? Why did the passengers still believe it was 1955? Why did the plane leave again so quickly? Why was there no radar tracking? Why was there no flight crash debris? No one has been able to explain all of these things. Even after so many years, this mystery remains unsolved. People continue to write books, make videos, and study the case. But Flight 915 continues to be a dark cloud in aviation history. Chapter 6. The Legacy of Flight 915. A mystery that lives forever. Flight 915 disappeared once. Then it returned. Then it disappeared again. And after that, silence. No one has seen the plane again. No one knows where it went. No one has found a single new clue in years. But the story of Flight 915 has not been forgotten. Even though it was just one flight, it left a mark on the whole world. It became a symbol of the unknown, a mystery that no one can solve. It made people think deeper about time, space, and the things we still do not understand. Let us now look at the impact this one flight had on people, families, and history itself. Families that changed forever. For the families of the 57 passengers, the story of Flight 915 was not just strange. It was deeply emotional. Imagine waiting for a loved one who never comes home. Imagine losing all hope. And then 37 years later, getting them back. Exactly as they were when they left. Some families felt joy, even for a short time. Parents saw children again. Children saw young mothers or fathers again. But that happiness didn't last long, because the plane disappeared again. And this time, those loved ones were gone forever. Some families became silent for the rest of their lives. Some never believed the plane came back. Others remembered it every day, like a scar that never healed. For them, Flight 915 was not a mystery. It was a personal pain that the world could never truly understand. Pilots and scientists who were shocked. After Flight 915's return and second disappearance, many pilots became nervous. Some said they would never fly the same route again. Others became more serious in checking their flight paths and instruments. The event made the aviation world more alert. Scientists and aviation experts spent years studying the case. They checked flight logs, magnetic fields, weather patterns, and time theories. Some even used the case in their books or lectures. But none of them could find the full truth. In fact, the more they studied, the more questions they found. Flight 915 became a case study in aviation schools. Not because anyone could explain it, but because it showed that not everything in this world is under our control. The people who never stopped searching. Even after the files were closed by the government, some people never gave up. One man built a full model of Flight 915 and studied it for 10 years. A woman opened a small museum with pictures, newspaper articles, and letters from families. A group of people formed a research team to collect stories, sightings, and dreams related to the flight. Some said they saw the plane in the clouds. Some said they heard radio signals with the same call sign. Flight 915, requesting to land. One man claimed to see a plane flying above the ocean with bright lights around it. He said it looked old, like a plane from the 1950s. Whether these stories are true or not, we don't know. But they show that the mystery is still alive. Flight 915 in popular culture. Over time, Flight 915 became a story told all around the world. Writers turned it into books and short stories. Filmmakers made documentaries and even movies inspired by the case. Teachers used it as a lesson in schools about mystery and time. Artists made paintings showing a lonely plane flying through space and time. People on the internet shared their own versions of the story. Some added new twists, like a secret message found inside a suitcase or a strange shadow that followed the plane. Some believed it was connected to other missing flights. Others called it the ghost plane that refused to be found. Flight 915 became more than just a plane. It became a legend. Why the story still matters today. You may ask, why are we still talking about this story after so many years? The answer is simple. Because it reminds us of how much we still don't know. We live in a world full of technology, satellites, and science. But one simple airplane, with ordinary people, was able to disappear from the world, not once, but twice. That makes us stop and think. Is time really what we think it is? Are there places on Earth or in the sky that lead to something else? Do we really understand how nature and the universe work? Flight 915 teaches us to stay curious, to ask questions, and to keep looking for the truth, even when it hides in the clouds. The final thoughts. And now, dear listener, you have heard the full story of Flight 915, a plane that left New York in 1955, a plane that returned in 1992 with people who didn't age, a plane that took off again and disappeared forever. The government stopped talking, the scientists stopped searching, but the story continued, in books, in hearts, and now right here on English with Ethan. Now we ask you, do you think this story is real or fake? Was Flight 915 a true miracle? Was it a scientific mystery? Or just a powerful tale made to make us wonder? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to share it, because there are many people who still have not heard about Flight 915. And who knows, maybe one day it will come back again. Until then, keep your eyes on the sky. Keep your heart full of questions. And always be ready for the next mystery.